Hey guys, thanks for joining me for Silhouette Sunday. Today's video is all about Christmas cards. I am starting to make my Christmas cards because I need them ready to be shipped out. And the nice thing about doing them on my Silhouette, or at least some of them on my Silhouette, is that it makes it easy for me to mass produce. So the card I have an idea for is something, I saw like a card in a store and I wish I had taken a picture of it, where it looked like it was like only half of a Christmas tree. It was kind of like a missing you Christmas card, but I thought it would make a cute, well, like actual card, but folded over. And you'll see what I'm talking about as I go along. And this is kind of going to be a hybrid card because I'm going to end up die cutting also with my Big Shot just to get finished edges on this card. So I'm going to cut the middle part with my Silhouette, but then I'm going to cut the edges with my Big Shot. Now, you certainly could do this all in your Silhouette. I just want to use my stitched dies. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So for the tree, I'm going to use an existing design. So I'm going to go into my library and I'm going to use this A2 swing flip card, and I just want the tree. So I'm going to ungroup this by right clicking and going to ungroup, and I'm going to drag this tree away and then select all this other stuff just to delete it. I only need the tree for my project, so all these other parts can go away. And I could go online, of course, and buy just a tree, but I prefer to just use what I have in the library as it is. So I have my tree here, and next I'm going to draw a rectangle that's going to be my front panel. So I'm going to go ahead and draw it, any size, select it, and I'm going to scale it down. And I'm thinking my die is slightly smaller than 4 by 5 1/4, so I'm going to go ahead and size this specifically to 4 by 5.25. And that way I have room to actually die cut. Now, for this little tree, I know I'm going to be die cutting the top, so I'm going to leave a little bit of space there, and I'm going to stamp a greeting down here, and I'm going to die cut with my metal die around there. So I need a little bit of room. But before I continue forward with cutting and cropping this tree down, I'm going to go ahead and draw a box around everything to select it, and then I'm going to go to my align tool and just make sure it's centered. This way I know everything lands perfectly. And for my design, I want the tree to be folded over so you can kind of get like a peekaboo behind, like of pattern paper behind this tree. So I'm going to use the knife tool and I'm going to cut this in half. And I have it selected to outline so that I have 2 different pieces once I cut. So I'm going to go ahead and click at the top of the tree and drag down. And the number that you currently see at the bottom, right now it says 0.057, is the angle. And I don't want an angle, so I'm going to move until it disappears. And once it disappears, I can let go. And it looks like nothing happened, but if I select my arrow tool again and then select this, you'll see I have a piece here on the right and then I have a piece on the left. So this is the side I want to fold back. It really doesn't matter which side I do, but I'm going to have it so this side folds back. So I'm going to go ahead and hit delete on my keyboard and get rid of this. And it looks strange, but I think it's going to look fine in the final product. So now that I have my tree shape centered, I'm going to go ahead and draw a box around everything again. I'm going to right click and then group it together so I can move it all at once. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this to fill up my page. Now that I have a page full of card fronts, I'm going to go ahead and set up my machine to cut each one of these out. And I'm just going to cut it out of plain white cardstock and I'm ready to assemble. Here you can see my die cut pieces, and I have 2 of them, but I'm just going to work on one for now. And I'm going to use a ruler and a scoring tool to make a place where I can fold the tree back or fold the tree over. This cardstock is actually pretty thin, so I could have done it just by hand or with a bone folder, but it's a lot easier to use a scoring tool because that way you know you won't get any cracking and you will get the fold perfect the first time. Here I am loading my front panel into my Big Shot machine. Like I said before, this is kind of a hybrid card, so I used my electronic cutter, my Cameo, to cut the tree portion, and to get that detailed stitch look, I'm going to use a large die from Lawn Fawn. So I'm just going to run it through the Big Shot, and I've centered it as best I can on the platform, and here you can see the final piece all cut out. Now, the papers I'm using for this card are not Christmas papers. This is actually paper from a 6x6 from Pink Paisley, and it's the Take Me Away 6x6 stack. And I'm just going over the card base with a little bit of tape runner adhesive and attaching down a piece of pattern paper that's kind of an ombre print down to the front portion of the card. And before I actually attach my panel down, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my greeting. So I'm using my embossing buddy to go over the bottom portion of the card, and I have a stamp from Hero Arts that says Merry Christmas to you. And this particular stamp set that this comes from has several whimsical patterns, and I'll link it below if I can actually find it. But anyways, I'm going to just stamp it down on the bottom portion of the card, and then I'm going to go over the stamped image with gold embossing powder. And this is fine gold embossing powder from Stampin' Up. And after I've coated the entire image or sentiment, I'm going to go ahead and set it using my heat tool. Now, I was going to leave it as is, but then I decided at the last minute that I wanted to go around the edges of the card as well with a little bit of gold embossing powder. So I'm just rubbing my Versamark pad against the edge and dipping it in the embossing powder and heat setting it as well. It's a really subtle look, but because this was going to be or is a fairly clean and simple card, I decided that I really wanted to add a little bit more of a design element. Now, the little part that's sticking out from behind the tree is another piece of pattern paper, just a scrap from that same Pink Paisley 6x6, and I've attached it down the back of the card and added a bunch of dimensional adhesive so that I can adhere this down to my card panel. And to fold the tree over and give it a little bit of dimension, I decided just to use a few scraps of dimensional adhesive, and I removed the back and folded it over so that it pops up just a little bit. And this is when I realized that I got dimensional or tape runner adhesive on the front of my card. So I just used an adhesive eraser to remove all that tape adhesive that I got in the way. And that is the final card. I hope you guys enjoy. If you have any questions, you can always leave them for me in the comment section down below. And as always, thanks for watching.